Hello, everybody. It's Philip Wilkerson. This is the first episode of Season 7 of Positive Philter. I'm so excited to be joined by Erin Mayhood from the Mentorship Collective to talk about mentorship and her journey in EdTech. I hope you enjoy this episode, and if you have any suggestions for the Positive Philter, please reach out to me on social media. I'm happy to incorporate your feedback. Enjoy this episode. Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, people of the world. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. As you know, we are rolling out the new season, Season 7. I can't believe I'm saying that. Been podcasting for 7 years, and I'm excited to start this new year with a podcast about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, which is mentorship. If you know, followed me, mentorship has changed my life. I've benefited tremendously from mentors, and I could shout out. I have a whole list of them. I ain't gonna do that to myself because I don't want to forget anybody. But I've also had the great benefit of being a mentor to so many young people, which has filled me up, made me feel like I've had purpose. And so I'm really excited for this episode. I'm joined by the CEO of the Mentor Collective, Erin Mayhood. Now we connected because keyword is mentorship, and she is doing great things in this space of mentorship and higher ed and just ed tech. A lot of hats here. And so I wanted to ask her a few questions. But Erin, before we get started, give us a little bit about your background and who you are.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today. I was so excited to be invited. Happy to talk a little bit about my background. First, I will say I am a first generation student. I didn't have models in my family. And so it was me trying to figure out what I wanted to do in this world. And I love to tell this story because people are sometimes shocked to hear that I was actually training to be a musician, a French horn musician, in my late teens. And I lost that career opportunity due to a car accident. And so there was a period of time of really rediscovering myself. And as you can imagine, and I'm sure so many of you have experienced, you have to dig deep. You have to be really vulnerable. You have to share openly where you need help and guidance. And I found so many great people in great places. Ultimately, I ended up discovering library and information sciences at a really, really critical time where, not to age myself, but here comes the internet. Here comes discovery systems and new ways. And I became really, really passionate about transparency and usability and making sure that everybody had access. And this really influenced me throughout my career. I was a faculty member for the early part of my career in library and information sciences, and then moved on to educational technology and worked to build out faculty information sciences, worked at Center for Open Science, and now I'm so thrilled to be CEO of Mentor Collective.
I love that. So I have a few, this is like true. When I see, I think the large misnomer of first-gen students already intersects with people of color. So when I see people that say, I'm a first-gen student, I'm like, whoa. And I've learned that it's more layers, maybe more rural or social economics that lead to first gen. Where in the first gen, was it like your parents were first gen immigrants? Like how were you the first gen to go to college?
Yeah, we were from a very rural community and no local college. And so it was it was just a path not taken for the family. And so that was the first. Are you hearing that beeping?
Yeah, there you go. Keep going. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if it was on my end. So very, very rural. Nobody had gone to college beforehand. It was not expected. We also had, troubled socioeconomics, right? We were not a wealthy family. We were very much a family divided. And so there are a lot of challenges in there that these going to school was not presented to me initially as an option. Until later in my teenage years, we did move into a city and stayed with an aunt and uncle. And it was at that point in my later high school years where I saw some other students were talking about going to college. I'm like, whoa, what is that? And that's really where the opening up and the, sharing what I was struggling with, sharing what maybe the life I wanted for myself. This is where I opened up to certain teachers and to a couple family members who were willing to start advising and helping and introducing me to other people who had been down that path.
Excellent. So, this is perfect because it's kind of like what you're doing now is passion work, because I'm assuming there's a large intersection of people that need mentors that are first gen, right? Navigating unknown lands. So
Yes.
for when you touched down your first semester at university, what was that like? And I normally heard of library science as like a master's program. Was that your undergraduate program?
No, my undergraduate program was music, actually. Okay. And you're right, the touchdown, talk about a shock to the system. You have to learn everything from, the academics are more challenging. There's nobody holding your hand and what courses to pick and, even how to navigate the campus, like taking a city bus to get, all of these things were just so, they felt very, very overwhelming to me. And I didn't do great. My grades were not awesome at first, right? You're taking that leap. And so then you start doubting yourself. And again, it was just such a shock. And I didn't have a lot of people in the family to talk to about it. So it was finding other students to talk to about it. And then the office that you had to go into to register for classes, like mentioning something, I really don't know what I'm doing here. And I don't know how to do it. And because I was in music, there's always a nice relationship between you and your one-on-one music teacher. And I shared a bit with him, and he really became a very close mentor of mine who really guided me on, I'll just be honest, how to be, right? How do you show up? How do you show up on time? How do I start acting like a little more professional so I'll start getting gigs and be able to make a little money? It was both training and like what a lot of people call soft skills that you just don't know some of the expectations of you. It's hidden. There's a hidden curriculum.
You're vibing because I was about to say the hidden curriculum.
Yes.
Like it's not knowing spaces and seemed like everyone knew office hours. Like, what's that? These are hidden curriculum things.
Exactly. Even the word curriculum, right? Yeah. And office hours, do you show up? Does the professor think that you're terrible if you are showing up? Are you on the naughty list or something? I just had no idea. And so I soon realized, which is why I'm very passionate about mentorship, that as soon as I shared a little bit of what I didn't know, which is a very scary thing to do, it's amazing who's willing to help you. It was just really eye-opening to me, like, oh, wow. I had to find that courage just to be able to say, actually, I don't know how to do this, or I'm feeling really scared about this. And there are so many good people around you that are willing to help, but it is very challenging to open up and say for the first time, what you're trying to do, or if you're just trying to change your situation and you're not sure how to get there.
Now, as you're navigating, one of the things I've thought about, and this is something I'm always curious about too, is that like the holistic college experience is that like, for me, I think other activities, other people, peers were really helpful. Like as a Black male, joining groups like when I was an undergrad called Bond, Brothers of a New Direction, just having spaces Were there anything like that for you, not only with adults, but peer spaces that you got involved with in college?
Yes, definitely. And you feel so much more comfortable sharing what the challenges are with peers. And I did find myself gravitating toward people who had shared experiences as mine, right? It didn't help me to hang out with super wealthy families or people. I wasn't even able to live in dorms, right? Like I had to gravitate toward other people who were having those shared experiences, like living in their parents' basement or a family member's basement, or trying to scrape together enough for food, or going and picking up the free food, like hitting up all the free food events, right? Like, where are those things to help you through? And that's really where I started. So, were there really formal things? Not really. It was seeking out each other from classes and finding the people who were experiencing similar things to me. Now, I was fortunate. I was in a very small department, right? I always think about these students who are starting like in these huge classes. I'm like, how do they find their people? For me, I could find them easily. My classes had maybe 30 people in them. And so that was a differentiator for me. And I think also being in music, right? It's an art, it's a craft, it's small ensembles, it's large ensembles. You meet so many different people and you're expressing yourself. And I think that made it a little bit easier for me to find my people as well.
100%. That's why I always say get out the classroom and find people. And obviously that's a scary leap, but I think that's something that's essential. Like I was like, you got to sometimes just get out and meet people. And that's where you're going to find your people, right? Where did the bug start to actually keep on going? You went from musician to library, like keep going. You're the first to go to college. Now you're gonna be the first to get a master's, or how do you keep going? How did that happen?
I know. There was something in me that, and honestly, I think back to a really tough conversation I had with an uncle of mine where he sat me down and there were a lot of things going on, a lot of things that were happening in life. And he sat me down and said to me really directly, you have a choice that you can make about how you want your life to be. And it can be this way, what you're living right now, or you can do something different, but you're going to have to work for it. It doesn't come just like at the snap of a finger. And I've always carried that with me. And when I was doing my undergraduate, and then even when, that career path was taken away from me, it was enough of a taste of what could be, right? I was active. I was meeting really, really interesting people. I had done musical gigs. Like I saw there's something out there for me. And that's really what kept me going. Now, when I first lost it, it's hard. Your identity does get tied up especially when you're in the arts with, oh no, what am I going to be now? And again, speaking to counselors at the school and sharing what I'd lost and how I felt about it. And then, honestly, it was conversations with librarians who pointed me in this direction. These librarians, if anybody is looking for somebody to talk to, go speak to your librarian.
I'll just say a quick tangent. I'm in my PhD program, and I didn't know that you can get like a librarian to like be like your researcher. And like you're right, they're just thirsty. I'm not thirsty. I didn't want to say the word thirsty, but they are like. I was like, hey, I'm working on this project. They're like, come meet with me. I'll be your consultant. Come meet with me. And then I did this, and they like sent me like 30 articles. I was like,
I know,
hey, just like a researcher, like you tell the librarian what you want.
Yes.
Kids out there, take advantage of your college librarian. They will go ham on research for you.
They can. And I mean, because they're problem solvers and information seekers, like that same passion that they find those articles and those research things, they help you see different degree programs. They help you see different paths that you can take. And so it's just having that, sometimes it's a little intimidating to speak to a faculty member who's teaching you in the classes. The librarian, they talk to everybody.
Shout out.
And so,
Oh, this
yeah,
is a plug. This is a plug for the library.
this is a podcast. You have to take this cut and just advertise the libraries. The libraries.
I love
Yes.
that. So you were
Yeah.
talking to one and you were like, wow, I mean, in your mind, and you know, it's like music and all that. Was it always like, you know, when you say like innately, like when you think about podcasting and all that stuff, I was like, I'm an extrovert. I love talking. But then when I talk to like people like, you know, like the strengths, like input, I think this input and learner, where they're always like sourcing and they love, was that something you were always passionate, like reading books and getting answers? Was it, and then you're like, wow, like I didn't know this was like, or in music, like how did I research famous musicians? Like how did this librarian world come to you as natural?
You know, when I look back, you're right. I was always the kid with the book in her hand. And I remember in elementary school going to the library and always like coming home with a pile and I'd read them so quickly, which was unusual. My mom still talks about that. You were I can't believe you like reading, right? And so it really started this way. But in the path to librarianship, I think for me, I really liked creating. And I think a side of librarianship and information sciences that was really, really evident to me back in these days was, networking was relatively new. The internet was relatively new. Apple was coming out with like really creative new devices, and usability and how people can use these systems, these devices. How do you, for example, gain access when you live in certain communities to job postings at the time, right? Like issues like that where I was really, really passionate about. And I just saw that learning about how to access information, how to present information, how to tell real information from misinformation. Back then, I was really motivated to keep going in those spaces. And I felt there's a product lens to that, right? Like you're building something new. You care about how people use that new thing. And that scratched my creativity itch that I had lost from music. It was a different way to let that creativity come out. And so prior to my CEO role, I was in product-oriented roles. How do we build this? How should it look to the users? What do we know about the users of these systems and what they care about and what's most meaningful to them? I loved solving those problems. And it was a great creative space for me and filled a gap. And I was very passionate about filling that gap.
Now, I don't know if this is a misnomer. I'll say this is a misnomer for me because I'm very transparent about it. Like when you hear the word ed tech, I'm assuming that you are like the best coder and Python, all these technical things. And what I'm learning now, and please correct me, is that you have a team. Maybe you have the coders, you have those, but you're also in like, you're just saying it like this. You have like, UX, like people that are more focused on the research, more focused on the user experience. And then they go back to the people that do the coding. And, it's a team, right? You don't have to be
It is a team.
the master of coding and computers, but you need to know a little bit of the lingo at least. But, like, you're in ed tech. Can you explain that like that? Because I want to talk to a lot of students out there. They're saying like, oh, I'm getting all the jobs are going to technology people. And I'm like, there's a space in technology for people that are not just technical people.
Yes. And every coder that I've worked with over my career is chuckling right now because they're like, if she says that she's a coder and I am not, right? And I am not, and I never was. I'm a problem solver, a creative. I like to see new ways of doing things. So ed tech to me is, and I think to the industry is, when you solve problems and look for solutions to support education, and technology is a piece of it, right? But if you think of all the jobs that are in ed tech right now, product, conceiving of the thing that needs to be created, services, how do you service and support the thing? Is my product going to be entirely technology encoded? Are there humans, consulting humans, supportive humans helping that? User experience, who's designing how this looks? Coders, how do I make it exist, right? So you can use it on my device. Sellers, am I fired up to go speak to educators or administrators to share how this product can help make things either more efficient, more impactful, more effective. There's just so many roles in ed tech. And one of the joys of my job is I get to be surrounded by all of this fantastic talent. I always say, get the right brains in the room, and you can solve the toughest problems and bring great ideas to life. And that's what ed tech is. And you can be super, super technical. You can be adjacent to it. You can be supportive of it, curious about it, interfacing with coders on how this should be or what we know about our users, or researching, does it work? So many jobs.
Now, I don't know. I mean, I don't. Mentorship is great.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so needed.
Yeah.
Why the conceivers of Mentorship Collective, why do they feel like this was a needed tool to support, this human experience of people to people?
Yes.
And the reason why I'm saying that is like mentorship happens organically multiple times, but also I'm thinking about now is access and usability of the mentorship, that there's a need for a technological support of this natural relationship, kind of like dating, right? Dating is historic as the beginning of time, people dated, but then as technology folded, people needed support with dating with these apps.
Exactly.
So how did this come to be, this Mentorship Collective?
Exactly. If you leave, it is true that you can go out there and you can find a mentor right now. And our question that keeps us up at night is, and will you? Right?
Oh, will you?
And will you? We don't want to leave mentorship to chance. The people who raise their hand in certain environments, including looking for a mentor, tend to be the same people over and over. What about the person who is not willing that day to take the chance to say that they want to have a conversation with that person, who isn't feeling that they can enter into that vulnerable space, who isn't being supportive in certain ways, maybe doesn't even have access to the social capital, to the group of people who would help them get to learn more about this thing that they want to do? I want to help those people. Our founders wanted to help those people. And we wanted to change mentorship from being like only accessible to the people who knew about it, who felt like they could take advantage of it that day. We wanted to change it from, hey, you need help, therefore you need a mentor, to you're going after a dream. You have something that you're going after. We're going to help you find the right people to be by your side and take some of the chance out of it. And so that is ultimately why we existed. Now, where does the technology come in? You can imagine people like to interact with technology. You like to be introduced with technology. We can do mentorship at large scale with matching algorithms and knowing who you're best to connect with, making those introductions to each other on an anonymous SMS text line, right? We can leverage technologies to kind of remove the barriers, whether they're real or perceived barriers, to making an introduction, getting started, help people with how to introduce themselves, right? Like, we want to remove every barrier so they're there. The other thing that we always need to be honest about, we've seen the data on social capital. We've seen the data on mentorship. Some of the issues that people experience are systemic. They have existed for generations. They're in society. The mentors can support you through a lot of those things, but what really needs to happen is sponsoring organizations need to help change what is happening here, right? And so we are an impact-driven mentorship solution. We study what works, what doesn't work. How do we get higher retention numbers? How do we increase sense of belonging? How do we increase career decision and self-efficacy? All of those things. Our results and outcomes go up significantly the more the sponsoring organization becomes involved. So now you've created not only a great identity aligned match with your mentor, you and that mentor are connected in this ecosystem that has more resources than you do, right? They have food pantries. They have emergency support funds.
Okay.
They have grant offices, right? And the mentor breaks down that barrier to say, listen, I'll walk you over there. Listen, hey, I've heard about this great thing. Let's go see if it will help you out on that goal that you have. And it gives you that advocate to help you get through what is, yes, it's asking for help, but it's also saying, I am going to go after this dream, and none of these things are going to stand in my way. But I think we all need to be honest that organizations do need to be involved in certain ways, whether it's industry, looking to build up certain types of young professionals, whether it's education. We all need to do our part. And so for us, that was a big part of building out mentorship, that it's not siloed. It doesn't live alone. If there's something that needs to be brought to the attention, the mentor and the mentee can elevate it and get the support that they need.
So I'm visualizing it right. It's like the little dot is you, and then a circle around it is all the different mentors, and the big circle is the macro environment.
Yes.
And those people are just pushing you through those barriers on the macro scale. But you need a system, like for instance, like the university tied to your platform supports the individuals inside that university, or as you said, like a corporation that has this platform. So it needs a larger organization, but also individuals. Now, my only thought is, and this is the what about if the organization is buying in? The big part is, how do we get to the small individuals and micro?
Yes, exactly. So if we get an organization to buy in, then we work with everybody affiliated with that organization to bring them into the mentorship program. So if you're imagining the large organization, say as a community college, then we're working with that student population and saying, like, here's what's possible. Here's what you can discover via mentorship. Here's a matching survey. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. What types of things have you experienced in your life? And we find the right match and get you going. The match is the 100% for sure relationship that happens, right? Mm-hmm. The organization becomes involved if one of the participants is saying, hey, we need a little something here, right? The mentors are trained to raise their hands and to flag if something is required. This student is thinking about dropping out for financial reasons. This student, we've seen, doesn't have a laptop and doesn't have the funding to get it, but this course is requiring X, Y, and Z. Things that can make it seem like you might need to drop out of school. You're embarrassed. You don't want to say this. You're tired of having to ask for things. But the mentor will advocate for you, and schools, that they will save the day. Those organizations will save the day. Same is true in corporations, right? Like let's say you're doing an internship or apprenticeship with a group, and the manager of that group isn't going to teach you the hidden curriculum that exists. And here you are thrown in to this environment. We will match you with an identity aligned mentor within that environment that is not your manager. And this really helps you see yourself. You can do this, right? You have somebody who's like, yes, this was my journey in. Yes. Oh, I know that does that's internal jargon. Let me help you with that. All of those things with somebody that has a shared life experience, somebody that connects with you right away, different than being in an internship and maybe somebody next to you, you think they're doing better than you and you're afraid to say something, gives you another outlet. And it really, really changes the game. It helps level the playing field.
I'm a person that mentorship bears fruit down the line. What do you say to those people on both ends that think that it's the magic pill, that all the things, like you say, your dreams come magically true with one conversation with a mentor? Where I can shout out to people like, they changed my life, but I didn't think they changed my life till like 5 years later. Like,
yes.
What do you say to that? What do you say to that? Those impatient, the microwave culture that we have so much.
Right. I think impatience can be an incredible personality trait, but you have to channel it right? Use that impatience to drive your own motivation and passion to not give up. Use that impatience to show your stuff, right? Your skills that you have. Oh, I can do that. I can produce that. I can create this thing, whatever it is that you're doing at school or in your job, just use that and leverage it in that way. It is true. It's not a magic pill, right? There's almost nothing that works that way. But you're opening doors for yourself. You're learning how to network. You're learning how to communicate effectively with others. You have a safe space for when you mess up, because we all do, right? Like, and so to keep going, and you keep building that network. So we hope that we're teaching you how to make those connections, that you're gaining trust in that, and that you yourself now will be able to grow. So I just always say, use your impatience for good, right? I'm a very impatient person. But I try, hopefully, I really, really try to channel it into, what am I impatient about? I'm impatient that retention numbers in this country haven't moved in decades. I'm impatient about that. I'm going to find a solution and try that, instead of, maybe a more negative outlet for it.
I love that. I love that. And then, one of my last questions, and we'll go to my last segment, because I know you have a busy day, CEO. I think that's the coolest title. What do you say has been one of the things, as you've been a CEO and, data has supported, what data has supported that you are doing something making an impact? Now, let me rephrase. I know you're making an impact. I believe you're making an impact. But what is something that you like that reaffirms that you are like, okay, I know I am. I visibly see this data or this testimonial or something that reaffirms that I'm doing the right stuff.
Yes. Oh, there's so much that I'd love to share on this. So first, I will start with testimonials, since you brought it up. The student stories that we hear, both from mentees and mentors and from industry mentors, we hear stories of persistence, gratefulness, human connection, joy, managing through struggles. I mean, these are the stories. From the mentors, you're hearing leadership qualities. I'm building myself into something more. I'm so grateful to be able to give back, right? These are the things we obsess over here. The data that I see, we measure sense of belonging 3 times throughout a program, an annual program. To see the changes in belonging from the first administration of that assessment to the end, that's a beautiful thing. That says a lot. We all know when you feel like you belong, what you can accomplish. Then career decision self-efficacy, coming in and not knowing how this course you're taking, how this credential is actually going to match and open up into a career. To see that change for a student, so dramatic. Diversifying hiring pipelines, when to see internships or apprenticeships not encouraging all students to apply for those jobs at the end until you introduced identity aligned mentors. That is a beautiful data set to see. And then to see those retention numbers, schools share their retention studies, and to see more students completing what they started, more, seeing that this investment in yourself is paying off. That is a beautiful thing. And then finally, to see perspectives change. When you're working with a school that was suffering from high dropout rates, retention issues, sense of belonging issues, and really, really frustrated with the equity gaps that they see, seeing that school introduce mentorship at wide scale, and then instead of trying to predict who might be more likely to fail, change their perspective to talk about institutional performance gaps and eliminating their equity issues, that change in those numbers across student demographic. That gives me goosebumps, and that tells me what's possible in the country.
So you're seeing it in macro, but in your mind too, there's so much more work to be done.
So much more work to be done. And we want to be there for the work. We want to bring we want human connection. We don't want to sacrifice human connection. We want to acknowledge that we live in a technology-oriented world and support those connections that way. But we're about human connections and about impact, driving impact. Connection for connection's sake is a beautiful thing. But we see so many people who are after specific goals. They have dreams, they have hopes and dreams, and they have very real blockers that with us working together with mentors and organizations, we can help make this path a little smoother.
Well, we're going to go to our last segment. It's called Shot for Shot. You get to ask me any random question. I get to ask you any random question. You want to go first? I'll go first.
Oh, okay. You go first.
All right. What is your favorite sport and favorite sport team to root for?
Oh my gosh, you're going to get me in trouble with this. Okay. So right now, I guess I will say my favorite sport is actually mountain biking, but what I watch a lot is basketball, and my daughter's at University of Virginia, and so I'm rooting for them.
Okay, there you go. Tony Bennett. Hey, shout out to the
Okay,
Hoos.
so back at you. What is your favorite sport now?
Okay,
to play and to watch.
Well, I was washed. I ran track. I didn't really enjoy it. Let me rephrase. I enjoyed the social aspect of going to track. I hated practice.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, my favorite sports to watch are the ones that my boys are involved in, which is a cop-out. But I'm going to say one of my sons loves football. He loves we only let him play flag football, but we watch football together. So Commanders, all that stuff. And then my other son, he just got into wrestling. He's 6, and he got into wrestling. And I've never seen how intense this was. So you see these they're like little honey badgers going at each other, and it's awesome. So
I love it.
I love watching my kids' sports. Hopefully, I'm not the one that's going to be like the LeVar Ball that's going to like make them do stuff that they don't want to do. But I want to highly encourage that they stay active and at least play until high school, so I can watch them. I love to watch them play.
Me too. Me too.
It's pretty dope to watch kids play. And I want to at least make it to the high school level and play in high school. And then when you go off to college, I don't care, but I want to be able to, on Friday nights or whatever nights the wrestling meets, I want to see you in action. I love that.
Exactly. We always have a rule in our house that you have to have one physical activity and one creative outlet as you're growing up. And for me, it didn't matter what sport it was. So very similar to you, but keep your body moving. Find something that you're passionate about. One of my kids who is wasn't into big team sports, she does tap dancing, and she still does it in college, just not at a super high level, but the fun group moves her body. And I just think it's so important that you find something that you love, and it really doesn't matter what it is.
But also, at the same time, as a parent, it's just fun to watch. I like watching my kids.
Oh my gosh, I know. That's why I say mountain biking.
I'm not into musicals. I'm not in the musical, but my kid had a musical. I'm in the front row. I'm like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The pride, the joy, yes. The community, the parents all going to see. It's great.
I'll learn any activity and make myself a knowledge expert. They can ride horses. I'll figure out how do you ride horses correctly so I can cheer at the right times.
It's another way to learn, right? And I feel I don't know if you feel this. My kids get exposed to things that I didn't do as a child. And so you're learning all of these great things that exist. It's so fun.
Yeah. One of my kids did archery camp. I don't know nothing about no archery, but I watched it. I was like, he was doing it bullseye.
That's exciting.
It's pretty fun. All right. Well, this is the part of the show. It's called shout outs and plugs. Shout out means show love to anyone you want to show love, and plugs. These are things I'll make sure to put in the show notes so that listeners can learn about it.
Yes. Okay. Oh my goodness. So shout outs. Well, it's so hard to pick. So Phil, do I pick one or two people?
No, you do it as well. No, shout out and plugs means anyone. I don't care. That's your platform. I say shout outs and plugs is yours.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first, I have to shout out the Mentor Collective team, of course, right? If they put so much heart and effort into everything that we do. And so I just shout out all of them. I also want to shout out all the mentors for taking their time And you are giving back in ways that you probably don't even realize at this point. And what we can see behind the scenes, you are changing lives every single day. Just one simple outreach to your mentee helps them feel seen, helps them feel heard. You just make such a huge difference. And to the mentees, I really I appreciate your vulnerability. For you being part of this, you are going after it, and you're going to do wonderful things in this world. Things that I really hope, I see more and more corporations now starting to participate in funding and supporting mentorship and alternative forms of learning and supporting students through that. I encourage that throughout the country. Let's get more people contributing and feeling great about their contributions and supportive for overcoming real live obstacles that are in their lives, and connect more humans to make it happen here. And so I'm shouting out the corporations that we work with that are already doing it, and encouraging more of you, if you're listening, to become involved. And there's so much support by organizations like us for helping you figure out how to be involved. And then finally, I'll shout out that aunt and uncle. They know who they are, who gave me those really tough life lessons and conversations. But really, my first mentors made a big difference in my life, changed the trajectory for sure.
And then where can people that listen to this episode find out a little bit more about Mentorship Collective?
Yes. So mentorcollective.org. Please come visit us online, Mentor Collective. You can find us online. You can find us on LinkedIn. Probably a lot of the schools, we work with over 200 schools now. Probably a school in your area is working with us. But please come check us out. We're open and transparent about our outcomes, and we'd love to work with more schools of all sizes and all degree programs, and more industry members looking to support students through internships, apprenticeships, scholarship programs, all of the different ways we can help support connection with your community and help get schools ready to be great contributors to what you do.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Erin, for being on the show. Positive Philter listeners, as you know, every episode is dedicated to the memory of my late father-in-law, Jeff Kirsch. So please consider donating to the Jeff Kirsch Anti-Hunger Fund for all his work fighting food insecurity across the country. Also, if you're a Mason patriot, please consider submitting a patch for patriots to spread kindness across the Mason community. It's been a great episode. Please support Erin and the Mentorship Collective and all the things I put in the show notes, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity Movement. Thanks for listening.